Hello, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? This is obviously the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and tonight it's going to be me and Kyra. We're going to do a special video. We hadn't even discussed the topics other than obviously the tragic events that happened 20 years ago today. And so I'm going to bring her on. And Miss Kyra, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me again.
Oh, you're always welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. So how's your day been going? I mean, I know you worked a little bit. You told me a little bit earlier. How's that going?
Yeah. I have two jobs currently, and so I'm gonna quit one of them in 2 weeks because it's just too much, but it's been good.
It's been good. Yeah. Well, I having to work on this day. Was that anything come up today concerning this? I mean, I know you have to focus on your job, but what how did your job respond to it? Did they have anything special or commemoration at all, or did they just pretty much just go business as usual?
It was mostly business as usual. An employee came up to me today and said, "Hi, Kyra, happy 9/11," which I thought was a little weird. And then there were a lot of customers coming into the store wearing American flag masks, because in New Mexico we have the mask mandate again, where you have to wear where you have to wear a mask. And so literally so many American flag shirts and American flag masks. There were little kids walking around the grocery store with American flags and like they were waving them. So it was really cool. And my store also had these beautiful 9/11 flowers with the American flag, and it was like red, white, and blue. And my parents got me one of those bouquets last night. So I thought that was really special. I literally started crying when I got the flowers. So it meant a lot.
Was that what I saw on Instagram?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. It's a very interesting day, and everyone has their own story. I remember growing up. I'm considerably older than you are, and I remember when I was coming up, the big thing was essentially JFK being killed, or even MLK, depending on who you talk to. But those two events, even RFK to a lesser degree, those are the big moments of that generation, baby boomers. And I never thought that would. Well, I thought it could happen, but the space shuttle happened. The Challenger happened in '86, and that was huge. But then 9/11, no one was really prepared for that. And so for Generation X, which is my generation, and would you identify yourself as a Z, or would you consider yourself a millennial?
I would consider myself Gen Z.
Yeah, I think you are. Yeah. I was looking at it. It depends on, it fluctuates around 1980s when the cutoff typically is for millennials, but they tend to go into like whatever, but it's right at the cusp, right? So, but anyway, how old were you when this happened?
I was one. Yeah. My parents were watching what was happening on the TV. I think my mom came home from work, and I remember them watching TV, but my parents didn't want me to see what was going on because I was really young to understand. So I learned about 9/11 later on in school, and I also kind of did my own research on it. Um, and for me, I think the night before 9/11 for me is always the hardest because so many people took their last sleeps before everything that happened. And it's, for me personally, I always post the on September 10th, I always post a picture of the Twin Towers the night before and like what they looked like. And I think it's really powerful. So I don't exactly remember like the towers falling down. I mostly remember my parents in the TV room watching the news, and they didn't want me to see what was going on. So they wanted me to not see what was happening because I was too young to understand. But I learned about it years later.
Well, that's interesting because for me, I remember it, like it was almost yesterday. And I'm wearing a shirt that I'm going to show you in a second here as soon as I close this banner out. And by the way, welcome everyone who's coming here. I know I jumped into the conversation without kind of welcoming people who are coming in. Let me identify who's actually here. We have Texas Political Commentaries here. I'm not sure, you've been on a few live streams as well. David, welcome, David. Thank you for coming here. I think that's when you're running mates, right, Kyra? David?
Yeah. Hi, David. I think he's from Colombia. Hola, David.
Yeah, he just said welcome. I think I put it up there. I put it up there again if I can't find it. So what I'm doing, guys, just so you know, I'm actually have two screens up here. I'm trying to monitor both things. If I'm looking away, it's not because I'm not paying attention. I'm just trying to do my own editing here, my own production. We have Mark Jackson here as well. He's awesome. He's like, I love that dude. And a person, I think if I say this wrong, Telstic. So it's crazy. That's been 20 years. So if you guys want to comment or gals want to comment, do so. If you don't want me to put it on the screen, just put a note there saying don't make this private, or put an asterisk by it. I won't put it on the screen. But I'll do my best to comment here. And Kyra and I haven't really rehearsed this. We're just talking. And I'm gonna give my perspective on this, and I think you gave your perspective of it. And I'm really kind of curious about your generation, how you guys look at it now. But I'm gonna take some time here just to talk about my situation and speaking for generation, I guess X. I hate the generation is kind of silly, but it kind of does kind of separate things out because people do have the same kind of values from different generations. I remember floppy disks and you don't, so so there is some commonality there. But for me, just so you guys know, I was a Democrat. Okay, I walked away. Let me show this T-shirt here. I made these T-shirts back on the website a couple of years ago to say when I actually walked away. And it was 2001, like my T-shirt said. And essentially, what happened was there was actually a movie that came out. It was called Get on the Bus, and this is a clip from that particular movie. See, let me move this quote here out of the way. Let me see if I can do this. And this is the quote here. So those of you seeing it after the fact can see. But anyway, this quote here was in the movie, okay? And the character there, his name is Kyle, and it's played by a guy named Isaiah Washington, who is actually he is now a conservative. And essentially what he was saying in this particular clip was that Democrats use black people. They use them for votes and for giving them little handouts for welfare and so forth. And that was the first the first red pill that I got. And this movie came out about 10 years prior to 9/11. And so advancing to 9/11, when it happened, I was still voting Democrat and so forth. And then I realized that when it happened, I was so angry and so fearful. I had a 1-year-old son at the time who was about to go into heart surgery. So I was already scared about that anyway. And my job was gone because I had been laid off prior to that. So I was unemployed with a son who's about to have open heart surgery. And so now I'm worried about the safety of my country. And so I was sitting out on my doorstep. I remember during the day, the towers had just come down, and I am cussing up a storm, yelling, screaming, whatever. And then my neighbors were saying, hey, it's America's fault, right? Because this happened. I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, our policies, we shouldn't have been over to the Middle East, whatever. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? I said, dude, do you realize that if I didn't cut my grass for 2 weeks, that's my policy of not cutting my grass once a month? That doesn't give you the right to come kill my family. And so our policies has nothing to do with attack on American soil. And so I was just furious. So I went out and I did a bunch of things. Longer story than that, but the long short of it is that I looked to the Republican Party to do something about it. They were the ones that were doing something about it. At least they were trying to do something about it. And then I got a rabbit trail about the information that I saw 10 years prior that Isaiah Thomas mentioned in that movie, Get on the Bus. And then from there, I became a radicalized conservative, and now here I am. So that's kind of my reflection, Kyra. Let me ask your parents. Your parents you felt that they were sheltering you, but even at 1 year old, you still felt that you have an inkling or understanding of what happened at 1 year old. So it must have been a powerful thing, even early in age, because I can't remember anything before 1 year old.
Yeah, I mostly just remember my parents watching TV. I mean, I think my mom got home from work. My mom or my dad got home from work and they said to watch TV. They said to look at the TV. And I remember my parents kept me out of the TV room because, like I said, they didn't want me to see what was going on because I was so young. I probably would have freaked out and had a tantrum. But I mostly just remember how much it's affected my parents. I mean, my dad never cries unless it's like 9/11, or he gets really sad and like somber, which I don't mean to embarrass my dad, but like that's not really normal for him. He's very He can keep it together, but I think on 9/11 and on 9/10, you see kind of a different side to my family a little bit. Um, and yeah, I just remember it definitely affected me when I was really little. Um, to the point where like I didn't understand what was happening because I was so little. But carrying it into today, I'm kind of glad that my parents sheltered me a little bit from not seeing the TV because that probably would have traumatized me at a very young age. But I will never forget that day um, moving forward. And it's probably 9/11 has probably made me more patriotic than when I was younger, to be honest.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I'm going to answer some of these questions here when we get to them. I'm going to kind of reflect on. I'm going to hold on some of these questions here, and then I'm going to go forward. And if you want to respond to them, if you interrupt me at all, Kyra, this is your show too. But you mentioned September 10th. Let's talk about that a little bit because the world was a lot different on September 10th. And let me just ask you. Well, you don't know. I mean, you don't know because you weren't really around. But do your parents ever reflect on what happened? How the world changed on September the 11th? In other words, how life was different and the day before. Did they ever convey that kind of thoughts to you?
To be honest, my mom doesn't really like to talk about 9/11 because it just makes her really sad. But my parents are both very, very patriotic. And so they taught me at a very young age to respect my country and to respect law enforcement and to respect the firefighters. And I remember one time I had a conversation with my parents because I showed them, my father showed me a picture of the Twin Towers the night before, and it was such a beautiful night. I remember seeing that picture, and it was like foggy outside, like the American flag was waving in the wind. And I remember talking to my dad about it, and he looked at me and he was like, "This is why we respect law enforcement and our firefighters because they lost their lives protecting us." And they literally, I mean, when the towers, like even before the towers went down, when you think about it, all of these firefighters, even the ones that survived, developed really bad cancer. And most of them, you know, when so many people were running away from the towers crumbling to the ground, those people risked their lives to save people. And it just makes you sad. And I think also, as well, another thing is 9/10. I remember my parents talking to me about it a little bit. And they remember telling me, be grateful for each day because no day is promised. And you should always like love your parents and like give your family as many hugs as possible and tell your family you love them because you never know when it's going to be your last day. And I think that we should always respect those who sacrifice themselves and who put their lives on the line each and every day so that we can be safe. And if it wasn't for those incredible firefighters and stuff like that, because if you think about it, so many people on 9/10 were going to bed, preparing for work, packing their bags for bags they would never open. Members of law enforcement and firefighters were going to sleep, not knowing what was going to happen that day. And so for me, you know, 9/10, I always have a hard time sleeping because I'm like, thinking in my head, I'm like, wow, there's so many people that were going to bed and they didn't know it would be their last night. And so I kind of grew up with my parents just teaching me to love America and to love those that protect us.
That's very well said. Thank you. I think Mark raises a good point here. And by the way, that picture I showed before, those firefighters, I showed it up again. I forget the firehouse. I want to say 23. I may have that wrong, but and this is, I might cry in this video. I don't want to do that. But everyone in that picture passed away, died, and it was the last known image of that particular group on the way up. You can see it in that picture. I put it up here real quickly again. Let me remove. Well, I'm gonna keep Mark's post up there. I don't want to lose Mark's post, but you can see their faces here. They're looking up at the building and they're going in, and it's like the courage it took to go into that building, like you said, when everyone was running away, is unreal. And to get into Mark's point here, I think Mark, Nailed it, dude. Pearl Harbor. I wasn't around for Pearl Harbor, but I remember when I was growing up learning about history, it pissed me off. I was like, what the heck? I'm ready to go to war. I mean, it's 30 years, 40 years past. I'm like, when do we fight? They bombed us. But it's over. But in history books, I grew up in a time when we had music class. We learned about America the Beautiful. We learned about Star Spangled Banner. We learned about, Paul Revere. We learned about, Nathan Hale. It's like, come on. It's like you grew up with this, and we had a patriotic mindset coming up. And so, yeah. And so that's a really good point. So, and for you, you're only 1 year removed. I can imagine you just be so angry and just sad over the whole thing. For me, this is my 9-10. Okay. I remember I was in my old house and I was upstairs, and before all that happened, the big deal at the time was, most people don't talk about this, was shark attacks. It was a rage of shark attacks, like the fifth one in like 2 weeks, or whatever. And it was like whatever. It was like the media was doing whatever. And all of a sudden, shark attacks stopped after that moment. No more shark attacks since then. And I remember that because I was on my PC at my office, and I looked at the screen, and it was refreshed. It refreshed from the previous day, and it had the shark attacks. I did a refresh on the screen. I took a screen print of this. It was so crazy. I took a screen print of this. It screen printed over. It said Michael Jordan did something in the playoffs, and then it said below that, it said plane hits tower in World Trade Center, right? And I had just seen a video about a plane hitting the Empire State Building back in the day. It happened. So I was like, okay, well, maybe something like that happened. No big deal, whatever. But, well, not a big deal, but I said, it's a small plane, whatever happened, so whatever. I went downstairs to watch it on CNN, and then I watched the thing happen. The second tower get hit live. And that's when I went upstairs and grabbed my wife and said, hey, look, I know you're having a headache. She was feeling horrible. I said, I know you're feeling terrible, but you need to get out of bed and watch this. And so that's how my experience started that whole day. But Pearl Harbor, Mark, was a really good example there. So let's see. Let me ask a question here. Let's just jump into some of these questions here. What do you think, obviously the Bush administration, they went into Afghanistan directly after that as a response. And the question, I think, I forget who put it out there, was, what do you think would have happened if we had never gone to Afghanistan? And mind you, just 3 days ago, we just retreated, it seems like, out of the area after 20 years of almost, I don't want to be pejorative in my question, but what do you think would have happened if we had never gone to Afghanistan?
I think we would have not have lost so many lives during that war. And I think it's a really controversial subject because, at first when you think about it, you just want revenge. Like when you see those towers fall, you want to make revenge upon those terrorists that killed so many of our people who were just working and providing for their families and protecting their communities. But I think respectfully, we wouldn't have lost those 13 Marines in Afghanistan. We wouldn't have lost so many of our troops, our courageous servicemen and women. And I also think as well, we wouldn't have spent so much money being over there, because now if you think about it, billions of our dollars and so much of our equipment has gone to the Taliban, and they're even wearing U.S. military uniforms. And so I think in reality, I think we should have left as soon as we killed Osama bin Laden. I think we should have killed Osama bin Laden. And I think we should have toppled Al-Qaeda. What I don't understand is why we were there past. I understand that, the treatment of girls in Afghanistan, Afghanistan's the worst country in the world to be a woman. But I think if we would not have gone to Afghanistan, we wouldn't have lost so many lives, and we wouldn't have lost so much of our money, and we wouldn't have made the situation in the Middle East worse than it was. Because if you think about it, we didn't necessarily solve the tension, because the Middle East for thousands of years has been in war. And I guess the American military and the Bush administration thought, well, maybe we can bring more peace to that region But I don't know what the viewers think. I respectfully believe that we left in such a bad place that we made the peace become more violent. And so, I don't know I hope my answer makes sense, but yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tag on. I in hindsight, it's 2020, and I tell you right now, I wanted revenge immediately. I wanted to see Moabs dropped. I wanted to see tactical nuclear weapons dropped. I wanted to see the entire place turn into a freaking parking lot. That was my foreign policy going into it. I was like, I don't give a. I'm not gonna try. I was like, that's. But to the same time, that would have affected people who were innocent there, because the Taliban was basically holding the entire region captive. I believe the Taliban came out of the vacuum left by the Russians back in the war. I'm old enough to remember the Russians invading Afghanistan. I remember that going on for a long time, and them having a problem with the Stinger rockets that we gave to the Taliban and so forth. That got a rise to, Bin Laden. I think you raised a really good point. Getting him should have been the flag for victory in a lot of ways. So in hindsight, 2020. I saw, gosh, what's the guy's name? He's the minister for deputy for Saddam Hussein. It come to me. He came to UNCG. He spoke. He talked about the weapons of mass destruction, how they were moved into Syria during a natural disaster, and how they were actually in Syria. They were never over there because they moved them. And that whole political thing went there. And of course, we had gone in there, during Desert Storm, and then that had never been finished. And that caused our allies to not like us because we didn't finish the job. But, Bush Sr. was like, we're not going to do it. We're not going to go to Baghdad. We want to free Kuwait. So all that crap in there, that nation building stuff, that globalism stuff that I wasn't really aware of now, that makes perfect sense now, that Trump tried to get us out of and did a good job getting us out of a lot of that stuff. Then you had the Kurds being attacked, being gas bombed by Saddam. So there's that area of it too. Is it humanitarian? So I'm glad I'm not in a position to do that, but I think your point of getting rid of, Bin Laden is key, just from a symbolic standpoint, and also to destabilize their leadership head. So it's a complicated question, but I know for a fact if we want to get out of there, we can't get out of the way we did a week ago. That was a slap in the face to everyone who had ever served there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think we went to Afghanistan, we also went to Iraq, but we should have done more when it came to Pakistan, because Pakistan has been a long time funder of terrorism. And didn't we kill Osama bin Laden in Pakistan?
I believe he was in Pakistan. I believe he was, yes.
Yeah, so we should have done more about handling Pakistan too, because they've been a long time founder and donator to terrorist groups in the Middle East. And they've also haven't been as respectful to the United States. Pakistan used to fund the Taliban. They used to give them money. They used to give ISIS money to Al-Qaeda. And so I think we should have done more to handle Pakistan too.
Yeah, it's funny. Even with Pakistan, we didn't even have permission to go over the airspace. We let them know on our way. We went in there, and one helicopter got destroyed. We had to blow it up, because it crashed, on the fence, and then had to blow it up, which is interesting. They didn't leave it there like this current administration did. And then on the way back, they let them know we were there, so they wouldn't fire upon our copters. But you're right. Even then, we played with, we call it when you play with when you don't handle situation, soft gloves. We handled them with soft gloves, I guess what it is. We kind of like handle them in a way that was really, really guarded. And I never understood that, especially considering India is our ally, and India can't stand Pakistan. So, anyway, so occupation is useless without handling Pakistan as well. Pakistan would have been. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I just mentioned that. So yeah, India hates Pakistan. You're right. So that would have been good. But see, they're both nuclear, so that could have been a problem they were really worried about. I remember the whole thing with the first war, the deal with Israel and keeping them out of the mix, because Israel was they were losing their patience with Saddam Hussein. They were going to get involved. And we were like, look, come on, hold up. And if you get involved, it could be a much bigger thing. So maybe they're worried about, causing a broader conflict. I really don't know. Let's see. The stingers you see are planes blowing off the chain as they took off those systems we gave them. Yeah, and I believe also, the funny thing about we funded the Taliban, Afghanistan during the Cold War, but then Saddam Hussein got mad at us for, in his words, for us tampering the soil of the motherland or whatever like that when we put our troops in Saudi Arabia. That was what supposedly got him the angst to build up his forces to do whatever. And by the way, I will mention this about Bill Clinton. He totally had his chance to kill bin Laden back in the day, and the rules of engagement were such that he didn't let it happen. They had sights on him. He was in a truck going somewhere, and he didn't pull the trigger. So Bill Clinton, who actually was attacked earlier with the World Trade Center when they hit the basement, so they hit us twice, and we could have stopped it the first time. So anyway. I got some questions here. What do you think now? Your generation, I know your friends and your colleagues and so forth, your classmates, your coworkers of your age group. What is their, and I'm talking about liberals too, just people in general. What is their overall thought of 9/11? Do they look at it like we do, like a Pearl Harbor or JFK, or is it just? What do they look at it like?
Well, today I saw a lot of people from my generation, a lot of friends that I have that are liberal. They were comparing 9/11 to January 6th.
All right, let's talk about it.
Yeah, and so a lot of them think, many people from my generation, the conservatives look at it in a very patriotic manner. They don't really agree with the war in Afghanistan. They don't think we should have gone to Afghanistan, but the liberals in my generation think that it's Islamophobic to call this Islamic terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism, or they compare it to January 6th and stuff like that. So they kind of look at it in a way of like, some of the liberals in my generation look at it as, oh, well, this is America's fault. 9/11 was America's fault. And yeah, they kind of look at it like some of the liberals look at it from a more unpatriotic way, and the conservatives look at it in a patriotic way. Some of them were around when it happened. Some of them were my age when it happened. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Well, I just want to, I think that's interesting, because I think, once you forget history, I think that's when you really have, then you lose perspective. And I think my position was this, and don't take this the wrong way, but the Pentagon, which, by the way, I will mention this, my dad was a defense contractor with the Pentagon, and he was actually on his way. He lives in about 9 miles southeast of Washington, D.C., but that's actually in Virginia. So he was even closer than that, across the river. And so he's heading over there, and Alexandria or Arlington, the same thing, pretty much, they're adjacent. And he could have been there, and he was on his way there. And a buddy of mine, I won't mention his name, he's a classmate of mine in high school. He was actually working construction, they were renovating that area of the Pentagon that got hit. And that's one of the reasons why the death toll was so low in that area, because it wasn't occupied. There was no office space in there. And so he was actually in the actual room where it got hit, ground zero of the plane coming in. You won't believe this. I was on lunch with this guy about 7 years ago. He told me the story. I couldn't believe it. And he has some problems mentally. And when I tell you this, you will agree that he has problems mentally. I mean, how can you not? He literally forgot his hammer in his truck, or a tool in his truck, leaves the building to get his stuff out of his truck. The plane hits, all of his friends were killed. So, what do you do with it? So I'm bringing that up just to say this, the Pentagon was a defense in terms, that's what I'm saying, don't take this the wrong way. In terms of war, the Defense Department is sort of fair game, okay? I mean, if you're at war, it's a military target. But where I draw the line is World Trade Center. That's a civilian target. That's like bombing women and children, and they basically did. And I'm like, look, that's why, to me, that was an act of war that should have been repudiated by tactical nuclear weapons. I'm serious. That's how I felt. And maybe I don't feel that way now, but that's how I felt then. And I'm like, because if I'm at the World Trade Center with my family and my friends and my kids, we're going up there to the observation deck to check it out, whatever, because we're on vacation, we're on holiday, and we're murdered because this happened. That to me is outside of any kind of Geneva Convention, outside of any kind of logical dealing, whatever. That is off limits. And that's why I was so insanely infuriated on that. And I will also say, I read the 9/11 report, the book about that came out, the 9/11 Commission. And supposedly, they aren't really sure, but Flight 93, I believe that's what it was. That flight was supposed to go after the White House, and the Capitol building. And the actual building that hit the Pentagon was actually supposed to hit the White House. So they were going to take out the World Trade Center, Tower 1, Tower 2, and then they were going to take out the White House and the Capitol building. The problem was they didn't know how to fly, the terrorists. And so when they were coming around the ridge, DC, if you're looking at a map straight ahead, the White House is going to be pretty much dead center downtown. At the bottom of that is going to be the Jefferson Memorial. To the east of that's going to be the Lincoln Memorial. To the middle is going to be the U.S. Capitol, and to the far right, U.S. Capitol is going to be to the far left, to the far right, and the center is going to be the Washington Monument. So what they were trying to do was they were trying to come around, but because the White House is covered with trees around it for security purposes, you can't see it above the horizon. So they overshot it, and they said, "Oh crap!" So you're coming in from the north, coming in, and they swung back around, and then saw the Pentagon, and then swung in low and hit it, just because they had nothing else to hit. And then of course 93 was taken down by the Patriots on that flight, which I want to talk about that in a second. 93, but is that your understanding of how that whole thing was going to shake out in terms of the goal of the terrorists that day?
Well, from my understanding, I thought that the terrorists were trying to bring down the White House, because I read somewhere that they were trying to locate the president somewhere else. And I guess Bush was reading to little kids at the time when the first plane hit, when a Secret Service agent came up to him and said, "Sir, America's under attack." And from my understanding, the people on the flight thought that they were going towards the Capitol or the White House. And so they decided to urgency to land that plane, even though they knew they were probably going to die. They did it anyway to protect our monuments. So I think I'm right on that. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. No one really knows for sure, right? That's what the commission report thinks that happened. Because like if you watch the White House, if you look at the map, it's surrounded by trees, right? And so if you're flying, if you don't, you can overshoot it, right? It's not a big monument. The tallest building in DC is the Washington Monument. Nothing's allowed to be taller than that. So everything's pretty much low on the ground. There's no distinguished targets. There's no big sky rises really, for points of reference. So, but anyway, that was the deal there. And I want to talk about 93 in a second here, but let's talk about a little bit about, I want to mention the U.S. coal, because Mark brought that up. And that happened underneath Clinton. And that was an attack where I believe, I don't know much story about this, but I know we lost lives on that particular incident. It was a naval vessel, I guess it was in the Persian Gulf, and it was attacked by a small boat loaded with weapons, loaded with explosives, and blew a big hole in the ship and almost sunk the thing. But it killed U.S. sailors. And according to Mark here, he says that Clinton took him off the terror list. That's bin Laden, that is. And I hadn't heard that, but it makes sense. Clinton just didn't have a really good track record when it came to foreign policy. I know how when he went to Rwanda, his policy was peacekeeper. His mindset of the military was it's really skewed. It was to hold peace, maintain, not to provoke, not to use it for an offensive weapon or to defend. And that was his worldview. So I think Clinton played a big part in that. And we'll mention one more thing. I remember just very distinctly when 9/11 happened, they kept doing reels over and over again of the reels that they had for, I guess it was, this would be Al Qaeda. Okay. So they had CNN had like a few clips they had of Al Qaeda, and they had them rolling over and over again. and it had them going through like monkey bars and doing exercise, whatever. And they had them going through whatever. But one thing they showed over and over and over again was a picture of them using President Clinton as target practice. Target practice. And I remember as a Republican then, they were blaming Bush for everything. I say, dude, they were planning this under Clinton. In fact, they were actually targeting him in their promotional videos. So don't, I mean, I'm not trying to defend Bush per se, but I mean, they were doing this under Clinton and planning it under Clinton. And the whole thing with the Monica Lewinsky, the impeachment, the O.J. Simpson trial, we were all distracted big time. Rodney King, we were all distracted big time. And so we all play a role in that, in some ways of being, I guess, falling asleep to the crisis around the world. But at the same time, there were so many different things that could have happened differently that could have saved thousands of lives that day. Like, so I got some people here that want to learn how to fly but not land. That one question could have saved some lives, right? I mean, there's so many things that went wrong that day and that week leading up to it. It was just ridiculous. This miscommunication between different agencies and the whole nine. I'm rambling here, but I just want to just bring that up because I know if I don't say it now, I probably won't say it later. What are your recalls of, what do you think, do you know of anything that you've read or heard that besides the obvious could have helped prevent some of this from happening outside of maybe even going to Saudi Arabia in the first Gulf War?
I don't really know how to answer that question. I think, generally speaking, I don't know, actually. Sorry.
Well, I didn't know what to ask you, so.
No, you're fine.
I just threw one out there just as a Hail Mary. No, I mean, I'm just talking outside my head because I'm really just trying to formulate these ideas because I really hadn't thought about these for many years now, but it's all coming back to me because for me, this whole thing led a journey for me to become more involved in politics, be more active, to do all sorts of different things within the Republican Party because the Democrat Party were just insane in the things they were doing and things they were thinking in terms of the anti-Americanism. And so I just couldn't deal with that anymore. And the fact that I felt that I was lied to for so long, for so many different years, about the civil rights movement, about the whole thing about that. And so I'm just really curious about that. But let's talk a little bit about, I guess, Flight 93. That was the flight, and I think that crashed in Pennsylvania. I don't remember where it originated from, but it was the last plane to actually be part of this whole thing. So Tower 1 had been hit, Tower 2 had been hit, and I think the Pentagon had already been hit. And we know this because the transcripts from the phone call that came, the gentleman who said, let's roll, who basically was organizing the people on the plane to take over the cockpit. So what stories have you heard of? We could talk about 93, but I'll talk about that specifically if you like. But what stories specifically have you heard of, anecdotal stories, whether it be on the ground, in the building, in the flight control center, anywhere that you've heard that's really been compelling to you, that's made you really stand up and take notice?
Yeah. I have one of the transcripts to one of the phone calls on my phone that I thought was pretty amazing. So there was, I think for me, the thing that really got to me was the voicemails from a passenger. He wasn't on Flight 93, he was on Flight 175. But he wrote, "Hey, this is Brian. I'm on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well and they're not looking good, I want you to know that I absolutely love you. I want you to do good, have good times. Same with my parents. I'll see you when you get here." I think he's talking about heaven. "I want you to know that I love you. Bye." And then he says that he will call her, and I guess he never did. There's a 911 call of, I think, someone calling from the plane. I think it was a flight attendant. She was calling and saying that it's been hijacked. And I guess at the time, when you think about it, because my brother wants to be an airplane pilot. So 9/11 kind of freaks me out a little bit because I'm always worried that when my brother becomes an airline pilot, something like that's going to happen to him. which I'm grateful because of all the security that happened, the security restrictions that happened after 9/11 that made flying a lot safer, especially with the cockpit. I think for me, the thing that kind of terrifies me, especially as a sister of someone who wants to be an airplane pilot, is these pilots were just trying to do their jobs and get people to their destinations, and they ended up getting murdered in the cockpit. And that gives me nightmares at night when I think about it, because my brother, like, that could be my brother. And I think for me too, it's all of the brave people who sacrificed their lives when they didn't have to protect us. And I was watching the memorial today before work, and I saw the field and the bells that they kept ringing. So, yeah, gets you very emotional because those people did not have to do what they did, and they did it for to protect our monuments and our way of life. And they were just regular American citizens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be too somber on here. I appreciate you saying that, and I'll save the story for later because it's a pretty somber story. So, but I'm kind of talking about something a little bit more uplifting, I guess. Just to break the get some little emotional relief here. Did you get a chance to see President Trump's speech or his discussion? I guess it was a question and answer when he went to New York today. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw the pictures. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Well, I actually watched the actual. I guess it was a speech. I guess, but I mean, he's such a cool dude. I mean, here he is. And I'm seeing the front picture up here. If I can bring him up here. Here he is. I'm not sure where he was. I guess he was in the headquarters in New York, one of the precincts. He basically came out and said, "Hey guys, thank you for endorsing me. I guess I was the first person to ever really be endorsed for president for your precinct, whatever." And they were, he was really charismatic with them, of course, and he was, they were eating him up, and he shook their hands and asked questions. And one guy asked him the question, "Are you going to run again?" And he said, "Well, because of campaign finance laws, I really can't say. They're dumb laws. I can't say it. But you'll be very happy when you find out." And he said, he went on to his thing about how if the current administration is acting irresponsibly, and it was just a really good uplifting point. It just shows you the skill set that President Trump has. I mean, here you have a moment in a city that he loves. His dad. His dad built his company there, and he was at the feet of his dad in New York. He's a New Yorker through and through. So is Ivanka. So is Don Jr. So is Eric, Tiffany. All of them, they're New York through and through. And so I thought that was really, really good, and I felt very encouraged. And I just get a lot of positivity from President Trump, even though I know where things are going now in this country. It may look pretty bleak. And he said, we may have to go through some tough times, but we'll get through it. So I really appreciate that about what he said today. So yeah, if you get a chance, check it out. It's like 8 minutes long. I think it's on Instagram for Turning Point USA has it. But really, really good. But yeah, you said who'd you say was your family? Was your brother-in-law? You trying to be a pilot or?
Yeah, my brother wants to be an airplane pilot. So I can't. Like, for me personally, my brother and I are like best friends, and like, so we've literally been like this since I came home from the hospital. So, I mean, I can't watch plane crash documentaries. I can't watch movies with plane crashes. Like, thinking about 9/11 freaks me out a little bit because like that could have been my brother. I can't watch the Air Force. I can't watch people flying helicopters, planes, etc. in the military. I can't watch that in movies and see crashes because it freaks me out. But yeah, like, my brother wants to be an airplane pilot, and I'm very proud of him.
Does he want to do commercial? Does he not care? Does he know yet?
He kind of keeps changing. He was in aviation management, but I know that he wants to go into aviation. but I think he just wants to fly. I mean, he's loved flying since he was really little, and he has known how to fly since he was little, and he has a natural talent for it. So, yeah.
Well, I'm asking because my son was interested in that for a while, and it's he loved it. But I took him to his first air show, and this is interesting, which is one of the reasons why I can't stand Barack Obama, is because Joint Air Force Base Andrews in Maryland, where I grew up nearby there, I got a chance to. I was a part of the last Joint Air Force air show there ever. I think that was 2007, I believe, and it was awesome. I had VIP, I had all you could eat food, whatever, and took him around different planes. He talked to some of the pilots. He was 7 years old, 6 years old, and they were just telling him, you get your grades right, do this and that, you can do this. So he was really excited. But he eventually teared it off there. He went to do other things, but I always have a appreciation for people who are into that. He volunteered for restoration for, I think, a DC-3 plane. And so, yeah, there's always that fear. And once you go up in the air, we're not meant to fly. If we were meant to fly, we could actually have wings and so forth. But I hate flying, by the way. So, yeah, I totally feel you on that. So Mark's saying here that that the cockpit to secure it is basically the cockpit to security of Air Force One, which is probably pretty sound, considering that's a pretty secure plane. Let me see. To secure the cockpit, to basically, I'm not sure what this question had answered the question here. What to change? I guess the European Union or the European. I'm not sure what EUU is. Do you know what that is?
I think he's talking about the European Union, and I think he's asking about foreign policy for our allies, which foreign policy for 9/11 actually became a lot more strengthened. And I remember a little bit after 9/11, even now, how foreign policy is so extensively argued. I mean, my degree in college, like my undergraduate degree that I'm going to continue later on, is specialized in foreign policy. So it's always been something I'm super interested in. And I think, and it also kind of has like foreign policy after 9/11 has definitely been very extensive and strict with our allies as well.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you knew that. I didn't realize what he was asking there, but I don't know anything about that, so I'll leave that question to you. So Mark Jackson here says that, did you catch the part where the Secret Service tried to shoo away police and Trump stood him down and took a selfie with the police? I didn't see that. But there were a lot of people around them. So I was like, wow, that's a hard thing to secure with all those people around you. But, the cops and so forth, and they just love the guy. So for his safety all the time because, obviously, for obvious reasons. But, I think, just having him still engaged in politics, President Trump could easily have gone into he could have gone back to other life and not been involved with the party and do things policy-wise, trying to get people elected. But he's still actively involved. I think that's commendable because he easily could have just said, you know what, I'll catch you when but he didn't. He's still being actively involved and still leading a movement that's vital to this country. Right now, the Biden administration, man, they're really showing their tail, man. They're really showing their tail. And I get into that in another
I think he's going to run again.
I'm sorry?
I think he's going to run again.
I think he will too. I think he'll be like, I think that's Grover Cleveland, I believe. He ran twice and won. Let's see if it makes you feel better. I'm a pilot. Oh, cool. I didn't realize that, Mark. That's awesome. What kind of planes do you fly? I'm curious. I guess Mustang, or dare I say Corsair, or maybe like Tomcat or Hellcat. I'm curious. Those are planes I know, no more too. Those are the four I know. Anyway, let's go on. So, I'm going to screen this question. Okay, uplifting story. Oops, let me get back to that. Sorry.
3-year-old daughter. How cute. Oh, I love littles. He took his 3-year-old daughter, and she didn't care. She was pointing at all the things on the ground. What a cutie. What's your daughter's name, Mark? I love little kids.
Man, my son loves the Mustang. I guess what's that? The Pratt and Whitney engine. What kind of engine is that? Is that Pratt and Whitney engine on that sucker? It's a fast, man. 40 miles per hour. That was incredible back then. And then of course the Corsair came out later toward the end of the war. That's awesome, Mark. We talk more, man. I didn't realize you were that awesome. Dude, I knew that's pretty freaking awesome. that's insanely awesome, Mark. Just so you know, I'm highly impressed.
Mark, what's your daughter's name?
Yeah. What's your daughter's name, Mark? Just or you can put this in the chat. We'll have, if you don't put a name up there, you can put it there. We'll do it privately if you want. Just you can put it in the private chat.
Dox her, but like, just give us her first name. I don't know.
Or you just put it in the comment, and I'll discuss it off camera. Let me see here. Their elder is double digits in California. Yes, that's a good. Yeah, let's kind of get off. Let's get off on this. Their elder is the OG. He's the original gangster. Dude, I mentioned this in my video this week, but he's from Compton, man. He went to Crenshaw. He went to Crenshaw High School, man. If you learned about Crenshaw, that's the Boys in the Hood and Men's Society. That's the street where, I've actually been there. It wasn't that bad during the day, but but he's from the neighborhood. He's someone that the Democrats should be embracing. He's the person who's came up from the street and successful. But no, he's a Republican, so they can't have that. So hopefully with the recall, they will, number one, say we're going to recall Gavin. What are your thoughts on the recall, Kyra? You have any thoughts on that? Have you been following that at all, California?
Yeah, I have my thoughts. I want Larry Elder. I'm not a Caitlyn Jenner fan. No. I don't like Caitlyn Jenner. I don't think I want to sound respectful. And I don't want to come off as like a bad person. But just because you say you're a conservative does not mean you are. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. For me personally, I mean, I know like Tomi Lahren said she went to Trump's inaugural ball, and I'm like, okay, a lot of people went to Trump's inaugural ball back when he was inaugurated. That doesn't really mean anything. I mean, a lot of people that went to that ball probably don't like him now. So it's like, I don't really, just because you say you're a conservative or just because you're a registered Republican doesn't mean you have Republican values. So I don't really like Caitlyn Jenner. And I also don't really know a lot of her policies. I'm just not really a fan of hers. I'm more of a Larry Elder fan. Like I know his platform pretty well on his policies. He's really smart. And I mean, I would hate to debate him. So I'm glad he's on our side because I would hate to debate him. I mean, he would beat me. But I don't know. Like, I'm more of a Larry Elder fan with recall than Caitlyn Jenner. Sorry, people, but that's just my opinion.
Hey, can you see the private comments? Can you see that?
Yeah.
You saw it?
Oh, so cute.
I put her names in. I put the names in the private chat. So.
I know what I'd name my daughter.
What would you name your daughter? What?
Liberty.
Oh, that's cool.
Or Reagan. I love the name Reagan for a girl, or Liberty.
Both are great.
Yeah. Or I could like, if I named her Liberty, I could name her Liberty Reagan or Reagan Liberty. Her middle name.
Girls are awesome, man. I have a daughter. She's actually here. She's sleeping. I'll probably woke her up though. I'm yelling over here, but daughters are great. I mean, I have two boys, but it's not the same, man. I mean, daughters, man, this just hits you at an emotional level. I see my son, he falls, hits his head, cracks his skull, but I'm like, okay, whatever, dude, get up. Band-Aid. But with daughters, man, it's a whole nother deal, man. It's like you're ready to go if something happens here, you're ready to go to war, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like it's like you're ready to go to war.
Yeah, my dad will be sitting on the front porch sharpening knives when a guy comes over to take me on a date. Like, don't mess with dads. My piece of advice. Don't mess with them. they'll literally kill you. They'll like
Yeah.
I remember one time I was talking to my dad and I was like, "What would you do when your future boyfriend comes over to our house?" And he's like, "I don't know. I'd probably threaten to shoot him. I'd probably take a bullet out of my gun and show it to him." And I'm like, "Ah." And then
Yeah.
he was saying he was like, "I'd probably be sitting on the front porch sharpening a knife." And then he'd probably look down and look like he's occupied, and then he'd look up at my future boyfriend and say, "Oh, hey there, didn't see you." Yeah.
Yeah, I do this all the time. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is not birdshot. This is not birdshot. This is slug. So just so you know, just in case you're wondering. Yeah, I like the scene. I mentioned it to you before in another video, another live stream. The scene in Clueless, right? I guess it's Elisa Silverstone and her dad, type A person, stern. He's a single dad.
The dad
and you know what I'm talking about, right?
You look like you're wearing underwear.
Yeah. Yeah, he says, he told the guys, like, look, it's like, go ahead. He told the guys that,
no,
said,
you
by the
go
looks
ahead.
of you,
you're good.
He said, I have a shotgun and a shovel, and by the looks of you, no one's going to miss you. So anyway, that's my dad's story there. I lost my train of thought.
No one's gonna miss you.
Yeah. So getting back to Mark before I get too far ahead of me, he flew a Corsair, which is basically my favorite plane in World War II, maybe ever. The Raptor's pretty good too, the 22, but the Corsair is the plane that's got the bowed wings. It came out at the end of the war. It actually shot down a jet, the first generation jets. It verifiably shot down one of those planes. But it's super fast, super cool. There's a show called Black Sheep Squadron. It came out in the 80s and I guess 70s. We used to watch it growing up, and it was incredible. Whatever. So Mark, dude, you are a freaking man. If I can say that more, I would, but people get bored. So we'll stop there.
Yeah. Yeah. God bless conservative dads.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You could fight with an old man.
Don't mess with conservative dads. Most of them have a firearm.
Yeah, we're too lazy to fight you. We have time for that. Stay right here. I'll be right back. Don't move. Let's see. Yeah, I was going to tell a story about 9/11, but I'm not going to do it. Only because it's super depressing. But I think we've covered most of what I want to talk about in terms of 9/11. I think the big point for me was to basically let you kind of share your thoughts, because I've never spoken with someone really in great detail from your generation who's actually dealing with the after effects of it, right? So, we dealt with it just from going through it and the uncertainty. Because really, here's the deal. I don't think I ever said this to anybody, even my wife, really. So I'm telling everyone, the whole world, this essentially. When that happened, and when you're in the storm, you don't know what's going to come out of it. You're after the fact, you can look back and say, but when it was happening, we really didn't know what the extent of this stuff was, right? Because, like I was saying, I really didn't get scared. And when Tower 1 got hit, I'm about to get emotional here. When Tower 1 got hit first, and Tower 2 got hit, I was like, okay, it's an attack. We know that terrorism. But then I was like, I told my wife this. I said, what would happen if what if something else got hit? And what if this was a coordinated effort? And then when the Pentagon got hit, that's when I got terrified. That's when I was scared. And that's the kind of feeling that I don't want anyone to ever have in life, because we didn't know if we were going to nuclear war at this point. We don't know what the extent was. And at that point in time, the Bush administration shut down the airplanes. He basically landed all the planes for like several weeks. And it was interesting. I tell the story here too, because I was part of a band. I was part of a Christian band called Hazard County. And we were doing tours. We had a tour scheduled in Nashville and a tour scheduled in Baltimore. And so that was already scheduled. So when 9/11 happened 2 weeks prior to us going up there, we decided we're still going to go up there. It was a coffee house called Joe's Place up in Baltimore. And so we decided to continue the trip. We went up there, and we get to DC, and this is my stomping ground. I worked in DC for many, many years, so I know the city very well. Parked. This is kind of crazy, right? So I'm in my SUV, okay, my I guess it's a 4Runner, and behind it is a U-Haul trailer. Think about this. All right, this is like 2 weeks after 9/11. All right, I have a SUV and a U-Haul trailer attached to it, and we parked it on the mall right there on Independence Avenue to do touring, and no one bothered us. And it's like I was like, is this a good idea to have a U-Haul on the mall? But what was interesting was a couple things. Was that there was a military presence on the mall at the time. They had military artillery batteries on the mall, and they had snipers all over the place. They had armed guards walking the streets left and right. And by the way, way less than what we're seeing now on January 6th. So think about that. A week after 9/11, we had less armed security on the mall than we did after January 6th. Think about that for a second. And the second thing I noticed was there was no planes anywhere ever that entire time we were there. And that was so strange to me. There's always a plane going on in DC somewhere. You got Reagan International Airport right across the water there. You got BWI not too far away. And I'm like, there's no plane airfare anywhere. That was strange. So I'll share that. No question there, but is there any thoughts there on that whole thing? Or if not, I can move on.
Like thoughts on what are you asking specifically?
I was just gonna move on. I was telling the story. If you had any thoughts on that, just the whole thing was just crazy to me. That that at the time we thought that we didn't know if we were going to go to a severe state of emergency nationwide. Was it going to be a war?
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I was saying. When I was in DC, I kind of got deviated there. But my initial point was about the whole thing about not knowing the future.
Yeah, for me, like one of my biggest fears is like nuclear war. Like nuclear weapons freak me the hell out. If you ever get the chance, go look up nuclear weapons and like actually do your research on them because they are scary. There's like scenario videos on YouTube that talks about nuclear war and stuff like that. Like if one country brings out nuclear weapons, we're all basically dead. So nice.
Yeah, we have the hydrogen bomb now. It's like ridiculous, man. The power of it is ridiculous. So yeah, Mark continues to show off. Mark continues to show off. He says he flew day over Chicago for 9/11.
Show off. Mark.
We should just end the show. I mean, why are we even doing this, Kyra?
Man, take me to Chicago. I'll fly over it. I just don't want to go in the city.
Man, I love Chicago. I wish I did. I haven't been there since the whole.
Yeah. My parents don't want me going to Chicago. Is that bad?
I think you probably stay away from the north side.
Yeah.
I guess if you go to a Cubs game, you're probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I spoke with someone the other day who's from Chicago. He said basically, all the killing and stuff is pretty much isolated in a few areas, but still, I mean, even that, I have no desire to go there. as beautiful as the city is, you got the Chicago River going through it. I think that's what it's called, Chicago River. Is that Chicago River? Whatever it is, it's beautiful. I remember it was interesting. I got another crazy story about Chicago, if you care to hear this. So we're going to Chicago, and this is during the summer of the Republican National Convention, which I believe was in Chicago. One was in Chicago, one was in Detroit.
I thought it was in Cleveland.
I'm thinking about 2004.
Oh.
Yeah. One was in Chicago, one was in New York. I can't remember which one it was, but Democrat was in Chicago. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I was on a boat ride there, and then I saw a story after the boat ride. You go to architectural tours, they put you on a boat, and they show you all the building structures and stuff. And then I saw a story about the Dave Matthews Band, their bus, got in trouble for dumping their waste over one of the grates of the waterways, and it landed on one of the boats. And I still am to some extent a huge Dave Matthews fan. And I was like, darn, I missed that one. Anyway, but I had a thought there somewhere. But yeah, and that's also awesome, Mark. I mean, the fact you're able to do that is incredible. But let me see. He'll take you. He'll take you.
I don't know, man. Flying is fine, but if I don't know you as the pilot, when I'm on a plane, I like to not think about being in the air. I like to like put myself in a different zone. Normally, when I fly, I don't really watch movies. Is that bad? I mostly like read. I bring a book with me to like escape that I'm in the air, and that once I get on the plane, I can't get off. Yeah.
I absolutely hate flying. It's one of the things I hate a lot. And so you asked the question: do you think it's bad to not? Because if you're watching a movie, you're on a plane, right? Because you got the headset on. It's usually kind of crappy, which typically you have to pay those headsets. Don't you?
And then I can't. Yeah. And then I can't focus on the movie because then I keep telling myself I'm on a freaking plane. And I'm like, once I get on this freaking plane, I can't get the hell off unless it's a parachute or a water landing, which no. Let's just not talk about that. But that's why I bring a book with me on the plane and then I just read. And then one time I read an entire book on the plane and I was reading the last page when we landed. And I didn't know we landed until a flight attendant told me. She came over to me. She's like, ma'am, we landed the plane. And I looked around me and I was like, what? And I finished the entire book. And this book was this big.
How'd you do that?
I don't know. Like, I read the entire book. I like started from the first page to the end. And I was just like, how did I do that? But yeah, I like to keep my mind off of being on a plane.
What's your reading rate like? How many? I mean, obviously you can do. I mean, how long was the flight and how big was the book?
Well, the flight was like 2 hours long, but I read a lot of pages because I just wanted to like not think about being on a plane. But like there's this site called Goodreads where you can log how many books you read in a year, and you can basically like there's like a reading challenge where every year like you said, oh, I want to read 20 books. Well, I was trying to read 10 books because I wasn't sure how busy I would be with work, and I ended up reading 19 books. So I'm 190% done with my reading challenge this year.
My wife loves to read. She's reading she doesn't read fiction at all. Normally it's like, you name it, she's reading it. Self-help books, conservative books. But she picked up a Bourne book. I'm not sure which one it was. There's like 10 of them. I think the latest one. And now she's reading that now. So, and my son, who's 5.5, because he's 5 3/4 now probably, he's literally reading at third grade level. He's reading Willy Wonka or the Charlie Chocolate Factory book, came out in 1964. He's reading that now. He's on chapter 8.5, he'll tell you. I'm on chapter 8.5, okay, whatever it is. But he's reading it on his own. So, and I read a lot in college, but not so much anymore in terms of fictional. I read more self-help, and it's mostly the audio. So I really don't count that. I'm kind of cheating.
Yeah, so. I read a lot. I like reading is how I deal with stress. My favorite thing to do, like I came home from work early today because my boss told me that I could go home. Like one of my bosses was like, oh, you can just go home early. And I was like, hell yeah. So I sat outside and I read my book. And my parents pulled up and they called me and they're like, hi, sweetie, we're here. And I'm like looking around me and I'm like, I've been reading this many pages. Like, I don't know, man, but reading gets me less stressed. So I love to read.
But you're reading stuff that you have to digest. Are you reading like high concept stuff?
Oh, yeah. Like I read like political theory, philosophy. I don't want to be one of those girls that's like, I'm not like every other girl out there. But honestly, like I read political theory, biographies, books about history, like historical fiction, basically I love memoirs. there's something about a memoir that I love. Like I finished reading Jesse Waters' book today, and that was
good.
Yeah. Like it wasn't my favorite book that I've ever read, but it was like really good and it gets you thinking about different things. But I love memoirs. Memoirs are great. There's this book called Sapiens. It's like about human history and how humans interact with each other. I love books like that, and I love self-help books. I see my Jordan Peterson books up there on my shelf, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to read Ulysses S. Grant's memoir, and I'll say real quickly, he was dying when that book was being written, and he was broke, and he knew that when he died, his wife would be penniless, so he had to do something. So he literally, I mean, it's a really incredible story, his memoirs, because he was pretty much a failure in business his whole life. He was successful as a general, but outside, as a president, it wasn't really a great presidency. It was okay. It wasn't nothing to write home about. But as a statesman, he knew he needed to do something to provide for his family, and he literally held himself alive to get the book finished. I think he died like a month after it came out, and made big bucks. And his wife was set up for life. So I thought that was really courageous for him to do that. So I like to read that one, and whatever. But so Mark Bracey said he'll take you, but he's old enough to be your dad, so it's a little awkward. But if you want to be in a Corsair or a jet, it may be worth the sacrifice. I don't know if I could do it because those planes are fast, and he might do a barrel roll, and I might just throw up in the cockpit. So I don't know if that's for me either.
I don't know. I don't know if I trust Mark. I'm sorry, Mark, but I feel like he'd go. You know when planes are like flying like this and then they go like that?
Yeah. S turn, whatever they call it, split S. Forget that, man. But and those planes are meant to dogfight, man. They're meant to do that kind of stuff. So forget that, man. And climbs and stuff and whatever. I like to talk more about that. I love the aviation stuff. I don't know anything about it other than what I read in textbooks and videos. So I'm talking with my knowledge that I have no first-hand knowledge of. But airplane movies, by the way, are fantastic. If you haven't seen those, Kyra, have you seen any of those airplane movies?
I don't know. Like, what kind of airplane movies are we talking about? Are we talking about like airplane like crash movies?
No, he's talking about the comedy. He's talking about the comedy.
Oh, okay. No, I've never seen that. I'm sorry.
Dude.
I don't really watch TV.
Oh yeah. Well, it's politically incorrect. It's like Blazing Saddles in the Air in terms of the political kind of style of comedy. But it's I'm laughing about some scenes in that movie. Anyway, but yeah, those are good. Check out. Ask your dad about him. He'll tell you. Let me see. Let me make sure this guy here.
He's coming back in 2 days.
He's out of Facebook jail, so.
Really? He said he has 2 more days left. Is my dad lying to me?
No, he posted a picture of all of his medals he got from Facebook jail, and a meme.
Oh, that sounds like my dad. Like I was talking to him today, and my mom was like, he was telling my mom and I when he picked me up from work, he was like, "Yeah, I'm getting out of Facebook jail soon." And my mom was talking to my dad, and she's like, "When are you not in Facebook jail? You're in there." And he's like, "Oh, maybe like 2 weeks," and then I go back in.
Yeah, when we first had our meetings, or our first live stream, I asked about your dad, and he was in Facebook jail. So, I'm kind of go through some comments here. This gentleman here, Rooftop Korean, says, by the way, we have a lot of people from Korea coming on the channel from some videos we did from the Olympics. College student at the University of Chicago got shot and died a few weeks ago. I remember him correctly. That's horrible, man. I mean, and no one seems to even care about it because it doesn't fit the narrative. Mitch flies all the time. Hey, Cocaine, how you doing, man?
Okay. I fly high all the time, if you know what I mean. Oh, okay.
Well, it's Cocaine Mitch, you know what I mean?
You do.
I never knew why people call it Cocaine Mitch. I'm still wondering that. Mitch McConnell, I'm assuming.
Why does Mitch McConnell look like a turtle?
Oh man, he's such a disappointment.
I know.
And the way he talks too. And the way he talks too.
I can't listen to him without laughing because he looks like a turtle. So every time he talks, I'm just like, I'm imagining a turtle talking to me, and it's really freaky.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a bad rap. I mean, Columbia, exactly. So, I mean, the whole Miami thing going on, the trade going on there, man. So, I can definitely see a sensitivity there. But that,
I love Colombia. Colombians are my favorite people. You guys are
beautiful country,
savage.
man. Beautiful country. Let me see. I have my books to read books, but I don't. By the way, welcome, Rooftop. And thank you for coming on the show tonight. Go through these things kind of quickly here. I tell my Dave I get it. I was a ranger. Dang, dude, what have you not done, Mark?
Mark, you're literally like 10. You're like the Barbie doll, but male version. Oh wait, I think that's sexist. I'm sorry. Sorry. Because Barbie's tried everything, like every job. Mark is Barbie, but male version. You're welcome, Mark.
If you watch the airplane movies, you know that he's not going to be offended by that. Let me see. I'm just gonna put this up there. Hopefully, this won't need to be screened. Let me see. I'm getting slow. Okay, Kyra Kyle reading Vince Flynn, the Mitch Rapper series would have been. You know what that is, Kyra? Vince Flynn.
What?
Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
I need to look that up. I don't know that. Let me see. I loved Sapiens and Beyond Order by J.P. Jordan Peterson. Have you read that?
Oh, I've read Beyond Order. Sapiens. Yes, I have that book on my shelf. I've read a little bit of it, but I never finished it. Is it good? Because I see it everywhere in the bookstore. If Cocaine Mitch can tell me if it's good or not, let me know. Because I'm thinking of picking it up. But I also have all these books behind me that I need to read. There's a book called Irreversible Damage that Target tried to ban recently. Like, they took it off their shelves.
Yeah, so I was
that.
like,
buy it. What?
I'm sorry to cut you off there. But I was just saying, yes, I saw your post here on your Instagram.
Yeah, like, they literally tried to ban her, and she's not even conservative. She's a free-thinking liberal, and she's like a classical liberal like Jordan. But they gave her a subject because she writes opinion articles, and I don't know what site it is, but they gave her this topic, and they're like, "Why don't you write a book about this?" And she was like, "I don't know." Like, she was going to write a opinion article where she researched the topic among young teenage girls getting together with their friends and deciding that they're transgender. When they've they've had problems with mental health. Like, I haven't read the book yet, but they basically, it's like no one in the company that she worked for wanted to take on this story. So she decided to, and she was like, this is going to be such a long article. Why don't I just write a book? And it's like right behind me, but like the left has tried banning it from everywhere. Like, it took me months to find this book. But also, I really want to read Sapiens, so let me know if it's like good or not, because it's been on my shelf for years, and every time I go into Barnes & Noble, because sometimes I'll drive like I'll drive 2 hours with my mom, and we'll go to Barnes & Noble together and just sit at Barnes & Noble and like read in Starbucks or something.
Yeah.
And I always see Sapiens on the shelves of Barnes & Noble. It's like a New York Times best-selling book, but I don't know if it's like good or not. So let me know if it is.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, so I'm sure it's pretty awesome. And you mentioned about Barnes and Nobles, and even when we were dating my wife, we were just like a date night. You know, we could just go there and just. This may sound crazy and stupid, but I just love the smell of books, right? So because I spend a lot of money on comic books, and I used to love to go to the comic book store and just the smell of the paper in there. And you get that same smell when you go to bookstores, new bookstores, not old bookstores. Old bookstores have a different smell, which isn't bad. It's just different. And I just love going in there. It's like, wow, you sit down and chill, get some coffee, read some books, and don't pay for anything. It's like a date night kind of thing. It's just, and you plan your future. So you would go like, okay, well, so we're gonna do home improvement today. We're gonna look at some stuff here. We get a house, and we get some kids. We'll do some parenting books, whatever, and then we'll split somewhere else. I'll go get some comic books over here, and she'll do her thing over here, and then we'll come together in an hour or two. And it's just a good experience. But those days are kind of gone now with bookstores and brick and mortar types of deals. Now, to me, it's time. I get audiobooks, I listen to them, and it isn't the same thing. It's the best I can do given my time frame. But I would love to sit down and just read some books the old-fashioned way.
My favorite thing in the world. I got to read today. I came home, made coffee. I was so psyched that I came home from work early because normally I work until 7. So I just made coffee and read, and I finished an entire book, and I'm starting another one, and I'm so excited.
Well, I read a book recently. And by the way, that's awesome. So you said you're psyched? You said you're psyched?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a term that was used when I was growing up in the 80s called "siced." It's a little different, but "siced." I'm so siced. I thought you said that. So, wow, that's old school. But I read a book recently. It's by a guy named I interviewed him this past week. It's called Orgasm, and it's a book. It's a relationship book. He's a Christian. It's dealing with the Kevin Samuels type stuff with marriage relationships. It's hard hitting. It talks about the secrets of men and what men do to cheat on the women. But I read the book because I interviewed him, and I wanted to make sure that I could talk intelligently about this book when I put it out there. So I read it I read it legitimately. I didn't read this audiobook. I read it on my Kindle, and which is still kind of cheating. It took me about 2 hours to read it. I went through it real quickly, but so I will say I did that. So I'm proud of that. So let me see. We'll keep going here. I want to see there's a comment that Mark made. I want to mention. David says here. Oh, the Colombian coffee is amazing. I won't even drink any coffee other than if it's a Colombian brew. I just won't. I don't drink much coffee anyway. When I do, I want the best coffee I can get.
Oh my gosh. I drink Italian coffee, French coffee, Ecuadorian coffee, Ethiopian coffee. Dunkin' iced coffee is really good. Like the hazelnut coffee. Yes. Incredible.
I'm not a fan of hazelnut.
Yeah, I like to make authentic European lattes every morning.
What? Seriously? That's amazing.
I make my own coffee. So that's what happens when you have a mother of European descent, because every time we've gone to Europe, we always like at dinner when we have Parmesan on our pasta, she'll have these authentic Parmesan things that you get it out of, like these Parmesan containers from Bellagio, Italy. Ooh. And then we'll have authentic French wine. Sometimes it's from California, but it's the thought that counts. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all I drink from California is Napa Valley wine. Because I went to a taste testing one time, and I was head of a JC organization. We bring taste testers in, and they would tell you for advice on how to get into wine. They say pick a section of the world and stick with that for a while, and then that way you can intelligently distinguish the different grapes, because they all come from the same region. You have a baseline to go on. So I never deviate from the Napa Valley by my wine. So maybe I need to expand myself outside of Colombia for coffee and outside of the Napa Valley for wine as well. But I don't drink much wine, or much coffee. But whatever it is, I want it to be high quality. So, by the way, your boy Mark here says that a 1G negative dive isn't that bad.
Mark! No! Terrible idea. Let's not do that.
So let me ask this, Mark. At what point does she need to have a flight suit so that her blood won't go to her head? Do you have to be in a jet for that, or you're pretty good in a sub supersonic plane? Just curious. He says here EUUEE. I'm not sure what that is. He says it's a state from the UUEE. I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know. Cuban coffee is good too. So is Mexican coffee.
So let me ask you this question. You mentioned Ethiopian coffee. That's interesting. What's the difference? Is it anything distinct about that versus some of the other ones? Or, I mean, if someone with a blind taste test you between Italy, Colombian, Ethiopian, Mexican, could you tell, or would you?
Yeah, like European coffee has this different like we call it frothed milk. Europeans call it frothed milk, where we make lattes. And then espresso is like Italian. So it's like it's very like a shot of espresso in Italy is like a big deal. When I was in Italy, we'd go to restaurants and like Italians would just like take a break off of work. They'd come, they get these tiny cups, maybe about this big, at like a restaurant, and they'd order espresso, pure black espresso, or they'd order it with like frothed milk and stuff like that, like a macchiato, stuff like that. And they'll sit and drink this really tiny shot of espresso, and then they'll go back to work. So when I go to work, because we have a Starbucks in the grocery store that I work at, I go and I normally kind of get my Starbucks and then I go back to work. It's just a tradition, I guess. You learn a lot from traveling. Like you kind of take in their culture a little bit and like insert that into your life. And that's something I really liked about Italian culture is like they take their time when it comes to work. Like they take their breaks and stuff like that. Ethiopian coffee, African coffee is very different than European coffee. It mostly depends on the country. Ethiopian coffee, it depends on the region where you have it. French coffee is the best. I love French coffee. I don't know why. I've had it for so many years that it's like my favorite thing in the world. I love cappuccinos, lattes. I love coffee. I could talk about coffee all day. And then iced coffee. Oh, that's a white supremacist symbol. Sorry.
Hadn't heard that one. Yeah, I drink my coffee black. I don't mind. I do love a good iced coffee, especially if you add a amaretto flavoring. I'm nowhere near a coffee snob, nowhere near. But I do enjoy it. I usually use it when I want to stay awake. But I'm actually more of a tea guy than anything else. I have tons of different types of tea. I'm sorry?
British? I was doing a really bad British accent. Sorry if my UK friends are watching.
Is that a slang for tea?
No. No. Tea in England is really good. Like, tea in Scotland is pretty good too, but nothing compares to English tea in, like, London. Ooh, and there's scones, okay? British scones are the best. I don't care what anyone says. English breakfast tea is really good too. You should try English breakfast.
I've had that. I'm not sure if I had a good one version of it. I like Earl Grey is a custom taste to me, and I only drink that because of Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek. So I forced myself to like it. English breakfast is much better to me.
Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah, that's funny. I like Earl Grey too, but I love English breakfast. That's like my jam.
Yeah, it's better than Earl Grey to me.
And I agree. We might get canceled from tea lovers.
So Mark's saying no suits required, so you'll need a flight suit. You're good.
What? Okay.
You can take that 0G negative dive, no problem.
Yeah.
Make sure you do a split S on her too, man. Make sure you do that. And get a GoPro just while you're at it.
No. Are you trying to kill me? I'm terrified. I hate those dives. Like, I watch airplanes do that, and I'm like, how are you not dead? No. I would literally get a parachute and jump off of the plane before the pilot does that. So, Mark, you better have a parachute on your plane.
I don't know, Mark. Has can Mustang go supersonic? I don't know, Chuck Yeager. Is that a joke there? Chuck Yeager. I love the movie, The Right Stuff. I've seen it several times. The story of the Mercury mission, and right before Apollo, and they got test pilots pretty much to do this stuff. And they were insane, and they had to be perfectly fit, good eyesight, and just insane to be able to do what they were doing, and be able to get through the training. So Chuck Yeager is one of those guys, and I think he was the first one to break the sound barrier. I believe. I think that's true.
There's a good chance I'll live.
Those guys.
Mark.
What's that? Did I miss it?
In the comment section, hey Kyra, there's a good chance we'll live. Just hold my beer. You don't drink. What the heck, Mark?
Well, he's an experienced pilot. I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he does it all the time in the simulator.
Oh God. Oh God. That makes me feel so good. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that. Well, I'm not going up with you sober. How do you do that? How do you pilot a plane like not sober? How do you is that legal?
Probably not.
I sound like a dumb blonde.
Probably not. But you can on a simulator. So what you can do is you can make sure she show you him flying without crashing in the simulator while he's intoxicated, and that way you can have confidence when you're in the air.
Yeah, because flying on a computer is not easy at all. It's actually easy, Kyra. No concept there.
If he has all the pedals, all the stuff, I'm sure it'd be exactly like it would be in real life.
Yeah, except you'll run into birds.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't condone that at all. By the way, McDonald's coffee isn't bad, but I tell you what's better, and you'll think I'm crazy. Waffle House coffee is amazing. Mainly because they outsource it from someone else, but it's pretty good.
Yes, I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I think it's kind of better than Starbucks, but Starbucks has really good cold brew that you can make at home.
I haven't been to Starbucks in a while, but I do like their coffee. The variety that they have. And what's amazing about Starbucks is the whole culture, because people in there are like serious. You know, it's like they want what they want, and it's like and the cup has all the different options on it. And the people who work there are freaking like geniuses to get those orders right.
I'm a server at a restaurant, and sometimes people ask me for black coffee, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's what I did. Black coffee. That's all I did. So someone agrees with me about Waffle House. I thought it was the only one. I think it's fantastic. And mainly to me, it's good about Waffle House. It keeps you awake. And Waffle House, when you're on the road, I-95, 95, whatever, that's all that's open at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah. Well, cool, man. We've been doing this for about an hour and a half. Good questions, good entertainment. And I thank you guys for lightening the load there, because I was going to tell a story that was pretty depressing, and I'm glad I didn't have to do it. Yeah, I think this day, I think ultimately what it comes down to is celebrating America. Okay, and that's the thing about this. I mean, and I saw someone in a football game today, college football today, and I was surprised to see the amount of patriotism on college football this morning. And this was, I guess it was on ESPN or CBS, whatever. I guess they were biting their tongues, the producers. Stop talking about America being great, whatever. But the commentator was like, look, no, I'm sorry, this is the U.S. Open. The U.S. Open, which, by the way, I love tennis. And this tennis match today with the women's finals was...
I knew a lady who I talked to a lady for a really long time on my shift at my restaurant last night. She went to the U.S. Open, and someone made her a drink that she got at the U.S. Open that was like this really interesting concoction. So it was nice talking to her about that for a little bit.
Juice, right?
She actually went. Yeah, like she went. Right?
Well, the drink there is called the Deuce. It's like cantaloupe. No, sorry, no water, honeydew melon juice. So they take raspberry liqueur and I think some kind of Grey Goose liqueur, and then they put 2 lumps of honeydew melon into the glass, and then they use something else in it. And it's like purple kind of drink. That's the official drink of the U.S. Open. So I learned that today. But this commentator, which by the way, your friend being the U.S. Open is pretty cool. By the way, going there, I want to go one day. But the commentator said after the match, he said, "You know what? It's good that this country is what it is, and the sacrifices that were made for us to be able to enjoy the freedoms that we have." I'm like, are you sure about that? I mean, we're enjoying some freedoms, but our freedoms are being taken from us. But I get what he's saying. And I appreciate what he was saying. And that's the whole point of this, that the people who sacrificed their lives on 9/11, after the fact, before and after, is to preserve what we have now. And so if we can just hold on long enough for the midterms, I'm just holding on to the midterms.
We're going to kill it in the midterms.
I'm sorry?
We're going to kill it in the midterms. There's some talented people.
I think we will. I think it's going to be really hard to cheat in the midterms, unlike a presidential election. I think it's very difficult to cheat across the board in all districts. So I'm hoping we can do what needs to happen there and take the House back. Just one branch is all we need, just to cut some of the crap going on. And also, if Larry Elder can win, actually 2 days from now, I believe, the election for California, I believe, the 14th. So hopefully that will happen. And that would be amazing. So, okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mark.
In New York City, I guess today, the weather in some states was the same as it was 20 years ago on 9/11. That's kind of crazy. Like clear blue skies.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah. Which is interesting, too. I don't want to compare the two because I don't want to compare the two. Well, I guess you can, but one was just call it bad luck, incompetency, whatever, arrogance. But the Titanic, that night, aside from the iceberg, of course, the water was just like the movie was. The movie was exactly the way it was in real life. It was just calm. It's like a blanket. It was freezing, of course. You die, get into it, but it was. That makes no sense. Sorry to bring that up. But the clear blue skies, what I was getting at was that the calm waters of the ocean and the clear blue skies of 9/11 was what I was trying to draw a comparison to. But yeah, and so that was just a really, really hard day on a lot of people, and affected so many different people around this country. And the worry that I have is people losing perspective as to what happened, why it happened, and why it's so important to not only commemorate our fallen heroes and soldiers, but also to honor the ones who are doing the job today, our firefighters, our first responders, our police officers, because they're the ones that keep society together. Our trucking industry, our nurses, who are now seem to be second-class citizens now if they're not, the V word. It's just ridiculous right now what's going on. So, but I refuse to bring this down to a bad level. So I'm gonna keep it at a high note. Let's go here. Few more comments here before we get out of here. Yep. I think we're going to do it very well. Very well. And Joe Biden, by the way, his policies are so unpopular that they're even pushing back on this $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill and all the crap he's trying to do because he doesn't have the political capital to maintain it right now. So hopefully him being an idiot is going to make it enough that we have gridlock just in his own persona. And hopefully he's also tied up in the courts left and right with these stupid policies for these mandates. Yeah, I agree, Mark. Mark is so smart. Yep. LeBron James. That's your favorite player, right, Kyra? LeBron James?
Oh, God. LeBron the commie. Wait.
Remember the video we did on him? We had a picture of him as like a Z from China. He was like he looked like Mao. a meme made about him. Anyway. All right. Well, is there anything you want to share with anyone else before we get out of here? We've been doing this for almost 2 years. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can people subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram and Telegram and Parler? Yeah.
I don't have Parler on your thing here, but I'll add that. If I can find I got your. I wouldn't delete it. Here it is.
Thank you. Okay, my YouTube channel is Kyra Bolby. My Telegram is t.me/KyraMarionCarolBolby. Okay, go add me on there. I don't want to sound like this is an OnlyFans account, but you get exclusive political content on there, so go add me. And then my Instagrams, I have 2 because Instagram, I think, is run by Facebook and it's communist. So follow me on Instagram at KyraMarionCarolBolby and at Real Kyra Bolby. Follow both of those accounts in case Instagram deletes me. Follow me on YouTube though, because I'm trying to get to 300 subscribers. And then follow me on Facebook. My Facebook is KyraMarionCarolBolby, and you get to see my stuff on there, my YouTube videos. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll get notifications. It's it's free, it's a good time. So go add me on social media and let's stay up to date on there. So yeah. And then Getter is Kyra Bolby and Parler is Kyra Bolby.
Yeah, I need to add those in Parler as well. So what was your Parler again?
At Kyra Bolby.
Okay. Yeah, Getter. What's your thoughts on Getter?
I actually like Getter a little more than Parler. I just don't have that many followers on Getter, so it's kind of like weird. There's not a lot of interactions on Getter or Parler, but
yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that. So, well, hopefully, what's going to happen is this stuff will become more built out and. Something will happen. I think once Trump gets his media outlet out there, it's going to be a game changer, because you need something. What happens is people are spread out, right? They're all over the place, and so the good thing about Facebook and Instagram is that everyone's on that particular platform. But when you spread them out, people don't want to have 10 different things to follow. So I think once Trump gets on his platform that he actually recommends, I think that's what will bring people from all over back into that one place. I think you have to have that central hub to get everyone, and that way you can kind of deviate in your other areas, but at least have one area where we know everyone's going to be. I think that's important. So, okay. Well, cool. So I think that's going to be pretty much it. Only guns. Well, this video will not be monetized. Yep, he is a jackass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a.
Kamala too. She failed her bar exam. Did you know that?
Who did?
Kamala Harris.
She's also an idiot.
I knew about this because she did really badly on her bar. And then she's like trying, if you ever get the chance, watch Kamala Harris question Amy Coney Barrett and just tell me who you think the smarter one is. Because Amy Coney Barrett's my favorite Supreme Court justice, and she is a beast. And Kamala's just like, do you think smoking causes cancer? Like, just asking really stupid questions to make Amy Coney Barrett look dumb. But just watch it, and you'll see who the smarter one is. I can't.
I remember her. Yeah, she's on the Senate. What's that called? Is it the judicial? Not the judicial. It must be judicial committee, I believe. And she was also the one that interrogated Kavanaugh very meanly. I remember that. I just, after I saw that, I despised her from that point. I mean, I didn't like her anyway because she's a Democrat. So I really did like her after I saw her way she questioned Kavanaugh and went after him. But I would check out the one she did with Amy Coney Barrett, because she didn't have any notes the entire time. I mean, she was just like there. I think she had a pad. It was blank the whole time. It was like, You know, in case
That's
you
what
didn't
I want to dress up as for Halloween.
think, Coney Barrett.
Yeah,
You got a blank pad too.
yeah.
You should have a blank pad. That'd be awesome. If people would say, "Well, yeah,
I have a picture of her on my wall. I have this like all of the conservative Supreme Court justices, Clarence Thomas, Scalia, Kavanaugh, Alito, Barrett, and then Gorsuch.
if you get a chance to check out Terrence Thomas's book or his documentary, it's pretty amazing."
What's his book called?
It's same as his other. It's the same as his documentary, I think. I gotta look it up. I look it up. Hold on. But yeah, he's incredible. I got high-speed internet here. It's called My Grandfather's Son, Memoir by Clarence Thomas. My Grandfather's Son. Yeah, his interesting story about Clarence Thomas, man. His grandfather actually kicked him out of the house. He's very stern with him because he was going off in the liberal Marxism tour, and he quit. He wanted to become a priest, I believe, and he quit divinity school. And his dad was really upset with him. But he picked up a job with a intern with a person on the Hill, and that's how his career got started in terms of like being on the Hill and getting to law school and so forth. So it was pretty good stuff for him. And he's got actually 2 books actually. This one's called. Oh, this is not okay. This is a secondhand person. Okay. All right, cool. All right. Let's see. Get one more questions here, and we'll get out of here. It's so funny, man. Marky cracked me up, man.
We love you, Mark. You're so funny.
Oh my gosh, man.
He's a good dad too.
I'm sorry.
Mark's a good dad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can't imagine. I bet you Mark's house is extremely fun. I can't imagine how this. I don't know how you cannot have a house that's not fun with his kind of sense of humor and his aviation skills, whatever.
Yeah, we love Mark.
Very clever, very witty.
His dog is adorable, too. I love
That's
his
really
dog.
his dog, right? I think
Yeah.
you mentioned it. That's really his dog, right?
Yeah, I think his dog passed away though. LOL.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mark, we're gonna end it here. So I'll give you the last word, Kyra. After that, we'll just break out. And by the way, I'm going to actually find my outro, so I won't have to wait for it. I'm still looking for it. Oh, there it is. I'm ready for it. So last word. That's it.
Yeah, that's all, folks.
Okay. All right. She had the last word. So see you guys next time. If you like this channel, subscribe to hers, obviously. And if you like this one, you can do the same as here as well. Thank you so much. God bless America. And God bless our fallen heroes all across the board, past and present and future. So thank you. Have a great night. And thank you for coming out.